Thank you, Senator Rice. Senator Brown.
Thank you, Madam Acting Deputy President, and I would like to make a brief contribution to what is an extremely important piece of legislation. And this bill is an example of Parliament at its best. Damien Mills tragically lost his life when he fell overboard while on a charter vessel between Rottnest Island and Fremantle in Western Australia on the 31st of October 2014. Mr Mills worked in Perth as a mortgage broker and was on a daytime cruise with 36 other people, most of whom he did not know. The cruise was organised by Hobart Loans provider Pepper Group and had been a social affair with many guests drinking, and the boat was quite crowded. By the time they were back in Fremantle, guests quickly got off the boat because many of them had felt that it was unsafe because there were very large. It was rough seas and there were very large waves hitting the boat and knocking people off their feet. Damien's death was devastating for his wife, family and friends. It was also preventable. When inquiring into the circumstances surrounding Mr Mills's death, the Western Australian State Coroner noted that if a proper head count of passengers when they were embarking and disembarking the vessel had been in place, Mr Mills would still be with us today. When he appeared in the coroner's court, the cruise company owner and boat skipper, Damien Lippard, insisted that he had done a head count and Mr Mills had disembarked. His claims were rejected by the coroner, Sarah Linton. Ms Linton was critical of the two-person crew for not doing more to make sure that passengers had been drinking alcohol were safe and aware of the rough conditions and that they stayed seated. When handing down her report, Ms Linton said, and I quote, "This is a particularly tragic case involving the death of a hard-working father of a young family who went out for a simple day of socialising and networking as part of his business and never returned home." End quote. She also said she preferred head counts be mandatory rather than recommended and that a proper supervision of passengers should occur. To quote Ms Linton again, "If that had been done in this case, the deceased might still be alive today." End quote. Following the coroner's report on Damien's death, Mr Mills's wife and father decided to take action. They want the coroner's recommendation of 2 compulsory head counts enacted. And as a part of their advocacy for change, Nicole and Richard met with Senator Glenn Sterle. As legislators, we have the unique capacity to effect long-lasting change. We have processes that help us gather the information we need to inform that change and expert advice that helps us convert the policy change we are seeking to legislate. Senator Sterle has done all that for the Mills family and for the safety of future passengers. As outlined in the explanatory memorandum, the purpose of this bill is to guarantee the safety of passengers on domestic commercial vessels. The bill will require masters of the vessels to conduct a minimum of 2 head counts of their passengers. The 2 head counts must be conducted at the beginning and the end of each voyage. At present, only 1 head count is required, which can be carried out at any time. The bill does not seek to impose this requirement on Class 4 vessels, vessels used for public transport, or vessels that are more than 24 metres long. By bringing this bill forward, Senator Sterle is demonstrating to the Mills family and many others like them that our parliament can work for them. The coroner's report was delivered on the 30th of October 2017, and in her report the coroner noted that there was evidence that Mr Mills's death may have been preventable if his disappearance had been identified sooner. The coroner concluded that the evidence underscored the need for simple processes, such as performing carefully and orderly head counts and supervising passengers properly while on board, which should have been undertaken by the crew of a charter boat to ensure the safety of their passengers. The coroner also noted that the court had been informed by AMSA that they had understood the safety issues raised by the death of Mr Mills, and it was AMSA's intention that steps will be taken to promote head counts as a safety measure. In her report, the coroner urged AMSA to ensure that safety systems be implemented and duly carried out by operators with care and diligence. It is now February 2020, more than 2 years after the release of the coroner's report, and we are yet to see any real action from AMSA. Not only has AMSA failed to act, but also the government has not intervened to ensure AMSA meets the undertakings they gave the Western Australian Coroner's Court. And it is quite disappointing to hear from Senator Brockman that the government will not be supporting a bill that will make a real difference, a bill that seeks to legislate a very simple but very important measure to ensure the safety of passengers. Mr Brockman also talked about AMSA needing to take the time to get it right. Well, frankly, that time has come and gone. 2 years since the coroner's report, 2 years, and no real action. Mr Brockman talked about timely manner. Well, you know, it's no wonder Mr Mills's family has enough of waiting. This is a bill that seeks to ensure people do get home safely. There's no impact, as Senator Stirl has indicated, on the fishing and agricultural industry. No impact. They talk about flexibility. Well, flexibility must not come at the expense of passenger safety. This is a good bill. I urge the government to change their position, to support this bill that will give some comfort to the Mills family, but also importantly, ensure that people do get home safely. And as Senator Stirl said in his second reading speech, this is Damien's Law, and I hope today that this will see the passing of this law as the first stage of seeing this important legislation enacted.